Hello, thanks for tuning in today. I'm Ivory LaNoue, and today's topic is finding your soul tribe. Before I get started, I want to say hello to my listeners in Clarksville, Tennessee. I love Tennessee. I grew up in Maryland, and my dad would was really into bluegrass music, and so there were times he would drive us into the neighboring states, and we'd go to bluegrass festivals, folk music festivals. Loved it. Beautiful state. Thanks for tuning in. So glad to have you here. I want to dive into this topic. It's been coming up a lot in sessions of late, and it's because there's a lot of people who are awakening to their spiritual journey, or they've been on their journey for a while, and they're looking around and they're like, I don't have anybody to talk to. That's the main reason I'm here. I just need somebody to talk to bounce things off of. I'm like, I will be your soul tribe till you find a soul tribe, and then I can help you in other ways they can't. But let's talk about this. Like, what is a soul tribe? A soul tribe is a group of people who are also on a spiritual journey. Some of them will have already been experienced what you're experiencing and then some. Some are behind you on this journey and just coming up on some experiences you've had, but it's people that are safe for you to open up and talk about your thoughts, your experiences, especially as you start experiencing maybe angelic communication, voices, visions, or other supernatural events that are related to you raising your frequency. You need somebody who's going to hear that and embrace it, accept it, and understand at least the concept of what you're talking about. So it's a safe group of people to be with where you feel at home. Because the truth is, as your frequency rises and you work on yourself and your spiritual journey progresses, you change. And so sometimes you look around you and you might just suddenly be aware that, you know what? I don't have any friends that are on a spiritual journey. When I try to talk about this, they look at me like I just grew a third eye. And I've been through this. I really had no family that were on a spiritual journey or had been. I grew up in a very conservative family, and my friends were all theater, music people. Some of them would listen, but they really couldn't relate to it. They couldn't have anything to share with me, and I felt like this isn't the right group to share it with, or I just didn't feel comfortable at all. So it's about finding that group. Now, if you are one of those people who realize you have some friends who are also on a spiritual journey, then you have the beginnings of a spiritual circle. Doesn't have to be big. I always tell people, so at first it might be a spiritual line where you're just sort of a couple, three people, and then over time you meet other people and you add them to the group and it expands as much as it's meant to, if it's meant to. But, and oh, I want to address too that there's some really lovely, lucky people whose parents are people who've been on a spiritual journey who can support them. I see this a lot with children who come into this lifetime with a very deep understanding of spirituality and self. They seem to be much more aware, self and spiritually, upon just as soon as they start talking. Their vocabulary is beyond what you would expect, the things they think about, the things they express. And they tend to have at least one parent who's spiritually aware. So they come in with that support built in place, and yay, I wish we all had that, but it's not the case. And for me, it's like I never thought, oh, now that means I need to turn away from my family and turn away from my existing friends. It just meant I needed an additional circle of friends. And if you're in this place where most people are, that they don't have somebody like that, then you need this. So what do you do in a spiritual gathering? A soul tribe gathering? Well, a lot of things. I've been in quite a few and started a few. Some of them are just about getting together socially. Maybe you'll meet for dinner somewhere or have a potluck at someone's house, and you're talking about where you are in your journey, things you're thinking about, things you're learning, things you've experienced. sharing with each other, and the camaraderie and just being with other people who are raising their frequency feels so good. And it's very uplifting for you to do that, very helpful for you with your frequency, with your growth and journey to do that. Other groups are more focused on a specific task. So I had one I started that was a lot of healers, including myself. I still do a little bit, but not professionally, medical Qigong energy healing. And so we would bring like 3 massage tables and set them up in a large room. We would have a potluck dinner, and then anybody who we knew who needed healing was invited to show up at that point and get free healing, a variety of different. It wasn't just me, there were several. We had a lady from Mexico who did a traditional style of healing. We had a Reiki practitioner. We had one guy, his name was John, who had never done healing, who really had no self-esteem. He came because his wife was involved in this, really interested. He didn't even know what it was all about. And that guy was such a natural healer. Like, to watch his self-esteem grow as he realized the power in his hands and how he could help people, and he really got into it. And he was more into it than his wife was. So you never know, what's going to be an awakening moment for somebody, or what's going to encourage your partner, your spouse, your loved ones to step on a spiritual path of their own. So ours was healing, camaraderie and healing. And then we eventually evolved into having guest speakers now and then, people who wanted to come in and share something with us, and they'd have a potluck dinner with us. And that was really fun. I was in some in Scottsdale where we would meet and we'd have a little social time, and there'd be a class where the people running it would teach a class. And then we'd have more social time. We'd practice the skills and have social time. Some others were meditation, spiritual circles I would drive down to downtown Phoenix from my home in Cave Creek and sit in a bookstore in this back room that was wall-to-wall benches, like cushioned benches. Every seat would be filled. There would be a little gong, and then we would meditate together in silence for a period of time. They would play a little gong at the end, and I would putter around in the bookstore. I can never resist a bookstore. And then we'd go on our way. But I really felt better. Like, we didn't even talk to each other hardly. Most of it was just pure silence and sitting in silence with a group of people with a common goal. Some others have been with doing earth healing. So I had a group in Prescott where we would go to the Prescott courthouse, and we would stand in a circle. It was at night because we didn't want to draw too much attention, but we would stand in a circle holding hands, and we would set our intention to do healing and send healing out to the world, to specific places, and then just in general, and visualize healing going around the planet and permeating energy of love. And it was really powerful. And only one time did security guard ask what we're doing, and then he just left us alone. He's like, well, they're not punks. First off, we were a little old to be punks, but we were not there to cause vandalism or cause trouble. We were just quietly, doing some healing. So you can do a lot of different things. There's groups I've been to. There was one I went to in Scottsdale with a really lovely lady, Lisa, who was doing meetings about fairies and elementals. It was really interesting, and I just loved her energy. And there were a few people in there I felt really bonded to. But what I was going to tell you is, I haven't lived in Cave Creek for over 8 years now, and I'm still friends with some of the ladies that I met in my spiritual circle. The people that I met in there have become very dear friends. And the group that I had in Prescott Valley, that was over 20 years ago. I'm still friends with these people. So we stay connected. So sometimes you meet in person, you build these bonds, and then maybe you have to move, or maybe the person running the group has to move. So let's talk about this. I feel like I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. I'm trying to stay logical with this so I don't confuse you. How do you find a spiritual circle? In the old days, children, let me take you back to the old days when I was young. And we would have to go to a metaphysical center like Prescott. It was Lifeway's bookstore, and there's a bulletin board in the back of the store where people would pin, index cards, and on it would be information about spiritual circles and groups and meditations, and you would peel a little piece off with a number, or you would write down, because you didn't have cell phones, write down the info on the card. That is how I found my first spiritual circle. My first circle was in Prescott, and it was on the top floor of the old Masonic temple. There's a gentleman, Christopher, who I don't know if he still does, but he had a wonderful photography studio up there, and he let us meet in that floor. So it was really, it didn't have any creepy feeling to it at all. It just felt good and clear, or I wouldn't have stayed. And so I remember going to this meeting, and they had a speaker that night. I went with a friend who'd invited me, and I found out she was going. She's the one who said, go to the bookstore and find that info on the bulletin board. So he was speaking. He was Danish, and he was a world-renowned channel. I didn't even know what that meant. This is before internet, so keep that in mind. So I go to this meeting, and I'm young. I'm sitting, and I'm just very quiet. I'm an observer by nature, and I'm just a guest, really, my first time, and just kind of feeling it out. And I don't want to do anything wrong, I guess. So I'm sitting and just watching, and he's going around the circle and giving personal messages to each person. But when he came to me, he skipped over me. And half of me was relieved and half of me was disappointed. And I thought, he doesn't have a message for me. Oh, well, okay. So he finishes this whole event, goes around the circle. There's probably 30 people there. And he starts to turn around, and he comes back to me, and he walks over to me, and he says, you have 9, I remember this so vividly, you have 9 diamonds around your head. You are a very powerful channel. Oh, I'm getting chills. The angels are coming in. You are meant to do this work, and you will. And frankly, I was 18 years old, and I was still determined not to do my spiritual work. I just wanted to be a singer, and that's all I was really interested in. But I wanted my spiritual journey. So I heard that. It scared me. I didn't know what it was. I had to go to the library. Yes, children, the old days. I still go to the library. I went to the library, and I looked up what a spiritual channel is, and I didn't like it. And because what it was talking about was more like letting spirit enter your body and talk, and it didn't feel good to me. So I nope, not happening. Of course, later, yes, now this does happen to me regularly, and it doesn't freak me out, and I can feel how holy and sacred it is. But I was young and not living in an environment that fostered thoughts like this, but still, it put that spark in my head. I did go to a few more meetings there, and then I moved from the area. So when I got down to Phoenix, it's much easier. There were so many more groups. There's a short period of time when I lived in Prescott again later, where I couldn't find a group that suited my needs. Either the people didn't feel good, they didn't feel like they were light, or what they were doing wasn't anything I was interested in. So I thought, well, I'm going to start my own group, and Meetup didn't exist then, so I just spread the word. I invited the people I knew who were spiritual healers, and that group grew. Like our first meeting, we might have had 6, and it grew to like 40. And when I moved away, that group continued for a long time until the person whose house it was at left. And those people are still in touch. In Phoenix, I went on meetup.com, and I highly recommend to you, make use of meetup.com. Much better than bulletin boards. Driving around town, looking for notices on bulletin boards, or searching the newspapers. You go to meetup.com, you join, which is free, and you enter the word spirituality or healing, if you're into Akashic records, if you're into angels, enter that word and how far you're willing to drive to attend. And then it gives up all of the options. And in a big city like Phoenix, there were a lot, and I visited a lot of spiritual circles. to find the ones that I really liked, and I would attend for a while, and when it did not suit me anymore and meet my needs, or outgrew it, or whatever it was, it shifted and turned into something else I didn't feel like was great for me, I left. And that worked really well, kind of piecemeal for a while. And then I ended up starting my own group in Cave Creek that was just a general spiritual circle. And we met in a store after hours. And it was a wide variety of people, from teenagers to people who were almost 90, people who had been on the journey a long time, people who were just stepping on the path, which I think is ideal because you're helping others and you're receiving help. If everyone's at the level you're at, what are you learning? What are you learning? Who are you teaching? So it was really good and it was fun. And we just kind of had like a talking point. So you could do that as well. Like we decided, okay, next week we're going to be talking about, could be a book or a movie or a spiritual topic. And we kind of have is everyone interested in this? Does that work for you? All right, that's going to be our next topic, so that they know that they can look that up, think about their questions, their comments, how they feel about it. And we'd get together, we'd have a little social time, we'd talk about our subject in a circle, and then we would have a little social time. And sometimes we would go get together and have meals together outside of that. Turned into a social thing as well. It continued till the store closed, and then I moved from the area. And I heard that did continue in some fashion. They moved it somewhere. Great. I'm so happy. But it's okay. It's all right. If you have a group and it lasts for a year, 2 years, 3 years, and then it kind of dissolves, then I think you can look at that to say it's served its purpose, both for me and for the other attendees, and thank God for that. Nothing's meant to last forever, so except God. So you can just let it go and look for the next one, take a break from them, find a different one. There are so many types of spiritual circles. Depends on, do you like to sit and listen and learn? Do you like to interact with people? Do you like to do hands-on things? So think about that. You might need to start your own. It's not hard. On Meetup, you get an account. You have to pay to post a Meetup. And at that time, it was $14.99. I don't know what it is now. And I thought that was very reasonable. And I found a place to hold the meetings. And on Meetup, that is your announcement. That's the only place you need to announce it. It goes out to many, many, many people. And I actually have a spiritual circle now. It's a little different. The spiritual circle now is more about afterlife communications. And I've learned the hard way, before I allow somebody new to come to the Meetup, I and a friend of mine who's also very intuitive will meet with them, like for coffee, for soda, iced tea, out in the public place for about an hour, and really tune into them and really get a read on their intentions, who they are, what they're trying to get out of this, to see, are they going to be a good fit? If we determine that works, then we invite them for one introductory session with no promise that they're going to be included ongoing, because we don't know really until we get them with a mix of everyone else. Everyone in the group has to feel comfortable with a new member for that to work. It's not a dictatorship, it's an agreement between all the members. It has to be good and right and safe for everybody. So I do recommend that. Like, if you start your own group, meet new people in person first. And if you can't meet them in person, maybe do a Zoom session with them, because you need to see people's face, their expressions, and particularly their micro expressions. And if you don't know what that is, it is little fleeting expressions people unconsciously have go across their face very briefly, could be for a second or two, that tell the true story of what they're thinking, who they are, and their intention. Much more than their expression they're holding on their face and the words they're saying. Never doubt yourself if you feel like something's off with these fleeting micro expressions. They are very telling. So you need to see the person, even if you can't be there in person, and in good lighting, I cannot overemphasize this enough, because I have had an experience where I was in a hurry and my friend and I didn't meet with a couple people. He had been to another group of ours and he seemed okay, a little odd, but okay. But then I invited him and his wife, to an event at my home. And when they showed up, she felt so dark. And I was so embarrassed. Like, I didn't want to say anything at the time, but I really should have. That's a lesson to me that, like, you feel something wrong, you feel something dark, that person doesn't come in your home no matter what. No matter what. Like, the effect it had on the energy of my home and those of us in the meeting cannot be overemphasized. So, of course, they were disinvited after that. And they were quite vindictive about that. That's okay. We cannot control other people's actions or reactions, but we must set boundaries to protect ourselves personally, spiritually. Negative energy in your space is damaging your energetic field. And I was just having this conversation with a new student 2 days ago, talking about how for empaths, you pick up other people's emotions through your upper chakras, which are from the crown chakra down through the solar plexus, which is your upper stomach. And for me, when I'm around somebody or something or a topic of conversation, or I'm watching a movie, and suddenly I'll get this, like, an ache in my solar plexus, and if it continues, it'll make me feel nauseous. The more powerful that reaction is, the darker something or someone is. And so I have to really look, okay, what? It's like a warning sign to your body, to your energy, to your higher self, that something's damaging your energetic field right now. What is it? Tune into it. Is it somebody near you? Is it something you're watching or listening to and not paying close enough attention to realize how it's affecting you? Is it something you were talking about or reading or watching on news, whatever? It can come from a variety of sources. And the same is true, like, when you're tuning into somebody to decide if a group is the right one for you, or if somebody's the right one to join your group. If you're empathic at all, pay attention to your solar plexus, and that is located between the belly button and the rib cage. And see how that feels. If you develop that dull ache there, and you start to feel like it intensifies and you start to feel queasy, pay attention to that. That is your body telling you something your mind is not noticing. So, to me, it's a barometer for empaths. Like, stormy seas ahead. I need to back out of this situation. I love that it's so easy to find these groups now. It's so easy that the only thing that can really hold you back is your reluctance, and that might be based in fear or anxiety, which is a type of fear. So maybe you're afraid others won't accept you. Maybe you don't like going where there's people you don't know. I have some social anxiety, folks. I'm outgoing, but if I have to go to a place by myself and all the people, I don't know anybody there, and I'm in that state where it's difficult for me, it's very hard to make myself go, because I feel anxiety just thinking about it. Even talking about it now, I feel anxiety. So I understand that, but how will you ever create your soul tribe if you don't trust and take a leap of faith and push yourself to step outside of your comfort zone? Your comfort zone can become a prison if you let it. And I beseech you not to do that. You don't have to go through your journey alone, and it's not a good idea for you to. Yes, it's very good to have alone time. It's very good to have quiet time to contemplate about your thoughts, your life, things that are happening. But you need to be with other people, and you need social life of some kind, at least now and then. So please don't let fear hold you back from finding your soul tribe. If you think you have some friends already, or maybe even family who might be good for this, you can kind of suss that out. Just bring up a topic like, I wonder, do you believe in angels? Have you ever seen anything, experienced something you can't explain? If they look at you like, where's this going? You're not. I would change the subject. You're never going to convince another person of something they don't want to believe or haven't experienced, or maybe both. So people will open up to topics of spirituality and growth when they're meant to, if they're meant to. So, you can take it out. Look at the people in your family and friends who are the most open, the most progressive. And this is not a political thing at all, but this is like, let's say open-minded is the best way to put it. Open-minded, they like to talk about a lot of different subjects. They're willing to entertain the possibility of things they in themselves haven't seen, people you're close with. And if it turns out that they're not open to this, don't hold it against them. We should not be judging other people for their journey or lack of a journey or where they are on their journey. They're right where they're meant to be at this time. If God wanted them to be further on their journey, they would be. Because you know what it's like when you have these epiphany moments and you start awakening, it's like a runaway train in a lot of ways. People will come to me and they're like, I think I'm going crazy. And it's just that you can experience so much, so fast, so frequently, and you can't deny it anymore. Once things happen to you, there's only so much that you can continue to deny or ignore, write off as, oh, well, that's just the lighting coming through the window, really. So try to find it amongst the people you already know, and see if you're not the kind of person who can organize a group and be the one in charge of it. Maybe one of your friends who is on a spiritual path would be open to taking that on, and you could help. Maybe you do the behind the scenes and they actually kind of welcome people and get the group started in whatever they're going to do each week. There's no need for one person to pontificate throughout a whole meeting. Nobody wants to sit and listen to that. So it's not about that, but I'm acknowledging that there's personality types who would enjoy heading that group and some who would loathe that. So, know yourself, respect it, and find a good partnership with somebody. You could do it together. I do like the idea of starting one yourself, and also keep in mind that in this day and age, not only because of COVID and monkeypox and everything going on out there, lots of things are happening online, and there's meetup groups that are completely virtual right now, and I'm sure that will continue. So the good news about that is you could look on Meetup and stretch your attendance further and look for virtual groups, but you could also just look online for support groups. So a different way of getting a soul tribe, let's say you're an empath. Let's go back to that. Empaths can be a rough road until you realize it's a spiritual gift and how you can use it to help other people. So how about searching online for online support group for empath? Those are very helpful. You could do a Zoom group. They already exist. They're out there. I know, because between all my clients, we talk about these things. Here's another one I think is really powerful for young people, children, young people. There are children out there who are very spiritually aware, who understand that they have spiritual gifts. They're very curious. They want information. They're unlikely to find that in their peers or even locally amongst their play group. So parents can look online, and there's these wonderful support groups for spiritual children, support groups for crystal children, the ones who are born into this world so spiritually advanced and old souls, real old souls, to talk with other kids so they don't feel alone. They don't feel weird. Once kids know there's other people like me, they feel a lot better about themselves and the situation. Parents who have children with strong gifts, you need a support group. That can be a real challenge. If your child has a strong gift with angels and they're born like I was, seeing angels, hearing them, feeling them, and you have no idea that's not in your wheelhouse, then you need a support group. Look online. You can join it on Zoom and other methods and meet other people. Yeah, it would be great if you could meet in person, but sometimes there's nothing in your near area that you can drive to, and with the cost of gas, who could blame you? So that may be the sole reason you really want to do a virtual, and maybe you feel safer. The anonymity a little bit of they can see you, but you don't have to have your name up on the screen. You could put your first name, your child's first name, whatever you need to do, whatever it's about, and have somebody to talk to and not feel so alone. That is also a soul tribe. And let's take it outside of angels and spirituality and awakenings. In general, people, humans, need the support of other humans. If you tend to live a pretty solitary life, I do now because I'm working from my home. I go into my business sometimes in Sedona, but I live alone, I work alone, and so I have to put time into my life with other people because I do like to socialize. I do like to see other people, especially lovely light workers, healers. I love being around people like that. You got to create that for yourself in some way. If you're not comfortable going out in public for whatever reason, again, you don't like going places alone, meeting to places you don't know the people. Online's a lot safer. You don't even have to show your face for some of them. You can just be there, and you could even have an image like you can change on Zoom. You can go down to the little up button next to your stop video, and it says choose virtual background, which is how I have my background of angels. You could upload a background of a flower or something spiritual and put that up there, so that's what people see, and don't have your camera on. So you don't have to show your face. Some groups will insist on it because they don't want lurkers. They want to know who they're dealing with, so be prepared for that. So I hope that between all of this, you understand what a soul tribe is, the many varieties that it can come in, where to find it, some ideas for finding one or creating one, either way, how to create a partnership that will work, like you do part of it, somebody else does part of it, so nobody has too much work, you don't have to freak yourself out. And that we're talking about soul tribes in anything in life, anything where you feel alone, overwhelmed, you need some assistance, some support, then get a soul tribe built up. So if you have questions about this, my email is in the show description, and you're welcome to contact me, send me an email, ask me a question, and I will do my very best to help you because I'm very passionate about the need for a soul tribe. I know it made all the difference for me, and I know it will for you too. So thank you for tuning in today to learn about finding a soul tribe. Tune in next Sunday. The topic is you are not going crazy. So these are for the people who are seeing supernatural, celestial, paranormal things, and it's because your frequency is rising, and therefore you start seeing things other people might not, experiencing things they may not. People will come to me and say, Ivory, I think I'm going crazy. So I'm going to address this right up front to all of you next Sunday. That is a pre-recorded show. There will not be, oh wait, I'm sorry, that is a live show. I'm fibbing to you. That is a live show, so you can look for the link in Zoom. And in the meantime, may your angels surround you. May your angels protect you every moment, every day of your life.